and we'll begin. I'm going to start with a healing story. So there's so many healing stories, and we've been talking each week about Anita Morjani and her experience, her near-death experience, and then her spontaneous healing that happened after that. And her story is miraculous for so many reasons, and one of the largest is that healing that occurred, and she's still being studied. People are still studying her to figure out what that's all about. Her body was riddled with cancer. She had this near-death experience, and in that experience, she realized the truth that she was one with all that was. She experienced the truth of who she was. She realized it, and once she realized that fullness, that wholeness, when she came back into her body, into physical form, the disease just could not stay. It could not stay with that realization. And I love, one of the things that I think is so important to mention is that in Unity, when we talk about a positive path for spiritual living, we're not talking about positive thinking. Unity is not a positive thinking kind of place. Unity does realization thinking. So it is not, so what that means is we realize the truth of who we are. We're pointed toward our own knowing, the truth that we are one with God and one with each other. Once we realize that, it is from that positive thoughts and positive feelings and positive emotions happen. So we do not fake our way to it. What we're working toward is that realization, so that then all of those positive things like positive thinking and positive emotions follow that. Okay, so I'm going to start. So there's so many awesome healing stories. And it was really difficult because I started to read all these different stories, and there's one in particular about DNA and how your emotions change the DNA when it's like 300 yards away, like your DNA is taken out of your body, and then 300 yards away you have an emotion right here and you feel really happy, and then your DNA changes like 300 yards away. I mean, it's insane. It's really amazing things. And the people that talk about things like this are Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton. These are all scientists, that's why I love it. And this guy, Dawson Church, is also a scientist. So here, I'm just going to tell you a quick story of the shrinking tumors. So energy healing researcher Bill Bingston was the subject of several randomized controlled trials in which he and his graduate students were consistently able to heal cancerous tumors in mice. He then began to apply his method to people. The following story is an example of the healing that can occur when cells are bathed in positive energy fields. One of Bill's students, Lori, was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. It had spread first to her lymph nodes and then metastasized throughout her body. She was given 4 months to live. Bill recounts, against all advice, she opted to be treated by me. For 2 months, I treated Lori 6 days a week, sometimes many hours a day. So intense was the process that I developed alarming lumps in my own armpits and groin, which disappeared when I physically disconnected with her. Did you hear that? That's crazy. Okay. The usual medical tests administered by her doctors, including x-rays, blood work, and CAT scans, showed her tumors to be shrinking. Eventually, they disappeared. Lori and I celebrated the 5th and 10th anniversary of her remaining cancer-free. So it's a quick story. And this is what I want to say about that. And I'm going to get in. Nope. I'm going to wait a second. Wait for it. It's going to be good when I get there. Okay. So the first thing, holistic healing, mind, body, spirit. So the recognition is that healing is something that happens in those 3 arenas, mind, body, and spirit. And in my experience, it doesn't matter which avenue you start with, eventually you get to all 3. So I tend to think that, you will know which one to go for. That's the deal here. This is what I wanted to say about Lori. That Lori, not you, Lori. That Lori in the text, right? So she went to this guy, Bill, right? And her tumor shrank. And then she was cancer-free for 5 or 10 years. So if we all had cancer and we went to Bill, would we all have our tumor shrink? Don't know. Don't know. It's because each of us is so unique and so individual. And this is going to be a point a bit later on the slide. But equal doesn't mean same, right? We are all equal. We are all energy. We all are children of the universe, God's spirit, whatever word you use. And we all are unique expressions of that. And lots of things came together to form who we are. And what that means is there isn't one way for everybody. There isn't one way for everybody. So most people that write books, right? Like, so maybe somebody had a diet that worked really well, and then they write a book about it, right? And it's great, and it did work for them, and it will work for some people. It doesn't mean that it works for all people, because it's way too individualized, you know? And that is why I think that the component that is so important is that we recognize that no one has our knowing. We have our knowing. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't know that that diet is the right one for us. We'll look at it and we come to understand and know within ourselves if that is something that we're being called to. Does that make sense? So mind, body, spirit, whichever arena you start in, you're eventually going to get to them all. Equal doesn't mean same. I skipped ahead. I am willing to release any unconscious pattern. Okay, so I steeped myself in Louise Hay this week. And for those of you who don't know Louise Hay, she's amazing. She has transitioned, but she has a book called You Can Heal Your Life. And it was written in the 70s, and it's still as amazingly powerful today as it was then. And I meant to say this too in your bulletin. There's a spot right here, so if you want to write down anything, there is a spot there to do so. I forgot to say that last week. But Nicole's been working really hard on making this a good teaching tool and something that everyone can use. So, what was I talking about? Louise Hay. Louise Hay wrote You Can Heal Your Life, and here's what I love about Louise Hay. There's so many things. But here's what I want to say about her. Anytime I have something happen in my physical body, anytime, and I knew I was going to tell y'all this. As I thought of this week, I was like, oh, please, I don't want to tell them that. I don't want to talk about that. But then I knew I would. So here it is. I am almost 40, and I dye my hair. And I have gray hair, right? But you don't see that because I dye my hair. I feel like it is very unfair that I have gray hair and I also break out. That's what I want to talk about. So, it's very unfair. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. I know. Hello. So here's what I want to say about that. I don't know why it took me so long, because every time I get sick, every time something happens, I think, oh, I need to go Google, like Louise Hay will have an affirmation for it. And I don't know how she knew, I should look that up. But so let's say it's, let's say it's a stomach upset, right? So you can Google Louise Hay, stomach upset affirmation, and she will talk about an affirmation that every time you feel that stomach upset, you can say it, and you're literally kind of retraining your subconscious. Well, I don't know why it never occurred to me to look up this situation that happens occasionally on my face. But it did a couple of weeks ago. And, okay, so I looked it up, and you know what it is? It's lack of self-love. Yeah, lack of self-acceptance. So I've been talking about this for several weeks, but one of the most amazing, a lot of us read Anita Morjani's book, Dying to Be Me, right? A lot of us read it. And each of us read it and we're pointed toward our own knowing, toward something specific and unique to us. And I got lots of things, but the thing that I got most out of that book was self-love. I heard her say that she wasn't loving herself, and I related to her story. I related to the thing where she was trying to figure out, like, Buddha, Jesus, who? I don't know. And through all of that, she wasn't loving herself. So I really got that message. So I really did recognize that I needed to start working on that. And sure enough, apparently this thing that's been happening has been pointing me to this for years. I should have looked it up a long time ago. Then it wouldn't have been a problem when I'm almost 40. But I'm working on it now. And so now when I see it, I look in the mirror and it says, and the affirmation that she says you can use is, I love and approve of myself. And so what I say is, I do mirror work. This is what Louise Hay calls mirror work. And can I just tell you, I read Louise Hay, this book, a long, long time ago. I never did the mirror work until now. I've been doing the mirror work, and then I heard her say, do the mirror work. Anyway, it's all synchronistic. It's what I should be doing. So I look in the mirror, and I say, like you did, Cindy, in your song, I look in the mirror, and I say, I love you, and I approve of you. I look right in my eyes and say it. It's super vulnerable to tell you guys this, but I just want you to know that it's working. It really is working. I can feel a shift. So what I know is that anytime I have a physical manifestation of something, it is here for my freedom. It is here to teach me something. It is here to point me towards something. And if I am committed to finding out what that is, to being curious about it, then I am led to where I need to go. I'm led to the teacher I need to talk to. I'm led to the book I need to read. I'm led to the show I need to watch. I'm led to the healer I need to talk to. The thing is when it comes to healing, we're talking about a holistic thing, right? So there's, if you're talking about body, you can be talking about nutrition. There's meditation. There's yoga. There's qigong. There's all these things that you can explore with the body. And so I decide to become willing to learn from any situation that's happening. Whatever physical manifestation happens, I'm going to use it for my growth and my learning. So I become committed to that, and then I become open. And then I am pointed toward these different things. Is it nutrition I need to work on first? Is it this? But I'll know. So point of power is always now. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday, or when I was born, or 5 years ago, or when I was 3 years old. It doesn't matter, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Quantum physics tells us that time is actually an illusion, right? And that everything that ever happened or will ever happen is happening right now. So when we decide to heal right now, we reach into the past and heal it, we reach into the future and heal it, and it's all happening right now. And that is why we practice, one of the reasons why we practice mindfulness. We practice mindfulness because that brings us into our conscious mind, into our awareness. We are present right here, right now, which is where our power always is. That's how we embrace it. So your future experiences are being shaped by what you think, feel, and believe today. I love that, what's his name? He's the neuroscientist that you've been reading to.
Joe Dispenza?
Yes, Joe Dispenza. Yes. Joe Dispenza. What's his name? Okay. What Joe Dispenza talks about meditation a lot, right? And what we know is true about meditation is that literally we are changing our brains when we meditate. We are literally changing our brains. And Chrissy told me this really cool thing that now they're starting to, I don't want to misspeak. I think that they're working with children with certain things and having them meditate and having their brains fix themselves, right? Hello. Yeah, because your brain starts to fire in different ways as you meditate. So Joe Dispenza says that every time you meditate, there's the recognition that is your baby is totally welcome to make noise. We love babies. The recognition is that it's an investment into his future. What he spends time doing today is absolutely affecting and shaping the future he will live tomorrow, right? So every time, and as soon as he said that, now, because I have a daily meditation practice, now every time I go to meditate each day, that's my knowing. I go, oh, this is my future. This is making sure tomorrow is a good day. And that's what it is. So your point of power is now. What you do today is shaping tomorrow. What you think today is shaping tomorrow. What you feel today is shaping tomorrow. And so what do? We have to be present for today. And we talked about this before. The statistic is something like 20% that people are only using their conscious brain 20% of their day. The other 80% is being run by subconscious programming. So in other words, it's when we stop being, maybe when we're driving, and it's a route that we've taken many times before, so we don't have to really think about it. What happens is when we're not present, our subconscious brain kicks in, and it starts running the show. Why am I talking about that? Oh, because when you're conscious, when you decide to step into that conscious part of your mind, when you decide to be aware, you are able to shape all things. You are able to see the signs. You're able to hear, oh, I should read that book. You are able to hear, oh, I think I need to change the way that I'm eating. When we're present as we eat something, we can listen to our body and listen to what it says about what it's saying to us. And I have a confession to make. That historically, because really early on in my subconscious programming time, for whatever reasons, I decided that emotions weren't safe to have. So I tried to stop feeling emotions. Well, guess what? Where do you feel emotions? In your body. You feel emotions in your body. And see, I decided that emotions were scary, and I didn't want to feel emotions. So guess what I did? I stopped listening to my body. I didn't want to hear my body. I didn't want to hear what I had to say, because if I listened to my body, then I'd have to feel an emotion. I didn't want that, right? And so one of my areas of growth is my body and listening to it, right? But what I know is that, so I started with my mind. I don't know. But yeah, I think I did. Or my spirit. I don't know. But what I know is that through that work, I begin to change, and I began to listen to my body. I began to go, oh, it's time to think about nutrition. Oh, it's time to do this. And then you get shingles on your face, and you can't not think about your body. So, all right. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this without reading it. This is what Michael Becker says. Michael Becker quote is really good. When you believe more in what you don't see than in what you do see, then what you do see, you won't see. And what you don't see, you will see. Yeah, good. Okay, I've been trying to remember it because I say it to myself. Here's the point. The point is that we do not have to be hypnotized by our senses. We have the ability to think independently of what is happening with our five senses. And so the way we become conscious creators of things like health and wellness and well-being is we decide that we are not going to rely on what we see, smell, taste, touch, and hear to tell us what's going on. We are going to decide that we have dominion. We can control where we focus. We can control, we're not our minds, we have a mind. So we can direct our consciousness. We don't have to become hypnotized. And as we do that, and then, quantum physics says that, and I think it's 80-20, but it feels like I'm saying that a lot. So maybe that statistic isn't wrong or right. But it's something like that. Something like only 20% of what is actually happening right here, right now, we're perceiving. 80% of it is invisible and we're not perceiving it. So 80%, like the majority of what's happening right now, we actually aren't perceiving with our senses. And so we decide that we're going to believe more in what we don't see than in what we actually see. And then what happens is what we see, we don't see anymore because it goes away. And what we didn't see before that we were focusing on, we see it. That is our power. We have that ability. Don't you love Michael Becker? Great. Okay. So, and you will attract what you need. So this is the parting thought. The parting thought is this. Recognize that no one has your guidance and no one can prescribe for you. That doesn't mean that there aren't experts and that there aren't healers and there aren't people that can point you toward your own knowing. You know what's best for you. I know what's best for me. And paradoxically, often, if we're too hypnotized by the world of the senses, sometimes we need somebody that isn't us, that isn't hypnotized by the same show to go, hey, here, you need to look at this, right? So it's not that we don't need help, but it is always that it is pointing us to our own knowing. It is never, never, never anything but pointing us to what we need to know for us. So nobody has the answer. That's not true. You have the answer, and I have the answer. And so we invest time in getting quiet. The final thing I want to tell you is this. I didn't have language for this before. I just got new language for it in my metaphysics book, textbook. And that is that we talk about intuition and knowing, right? So you're going to know where you're being pointed, right? Here's the thing. There is human intuition, right? And human knowing. And then there is divine guidance. Guidance that is coming from your soul, your higher self, the part of you that is connected to all that is. That comes from a different spot. The human intuition is coming and is tied to your subconscious. So your subconscious mind is programmed between the ages of 0 and 6. Subconscious mind. So you can have an intuitive hit that's like, oh, that one. So I'll give an example. You could be like, oh, that person, I'm supposed to talk to that person. That person and I should go on a date, right? And then we go on a date. And I go, oh, this person, yeah, it was this person, and we get married. And then 5 years later, I'm like, what was going on there? That was an intuitive hit. I know, I was there. It was an intuitive hit. But guess what? It was an intuitive hit that was tied to my subconscious programming, right? Right? So we have to get really, really clear about tapping in to the knowing that is beyond intellect and that is connected to our higher self and all that is, right? And the way that we do that is we invest time in meditation. We invest time in taking more conscious breaths. We invest time in reading spiritual truths and teachings. We invest in ourselves so that we are able to know the difference. And here is a quality, and this is a good way to know when it's human intuition. Human intuition will have a quality that feels rushed. Human intuition will say now, and if you don't, something bad will happen. There's a fearful quality behind it. Human intuition, divine guidance, the thing is, because time doesn't exist, anything that tells you got to do it now, rush now, if you don't do it now, you're going to lose out, do it now, that can't be real because time isn't real, right? And our point of power is always now. So if I didn't do it the minute before, I can do it right now. So any rushed thing, just take a breath. We don't need to listen to the rushed thing, right? Okay. So let's take a moment and get quiet, turn within, and see if we can tap into that space, that divine guidance.